So I am about to talk about something that really challenges me to speak about it. I've been actually working through it for about 3 years. I'm sitting in my sacred space in the woods, the place where I love to hide or put myself in the center of stillness. So I'm going to start this little video, which I'm going to upload to my YouTube channel. I actually just like this format, so here we are. I'm going to talk a little bit about my dark night of the soul. Very little. I don't want to be too personal. I want to be more the teachings that came through from it and what it expanded in me or opened in me. So my dark night of the soul, I've always seen spirit. I've always connected with spirit. I've always flown dragons in my dream space. This was my life, and I kind of spent a life as your typical star being, not kind of everybody enjoyed me but never quite fitting in. And I've grown into an adult who actually cherishes her alone time, and I think that's part of what that taught me is introspective time. So in 2014, my family, we all got a flu. It was a pretty violent flu. There's a flu going around the whole town. I have 3 children, and this flu attacked my joints. It was so freaking insanely painful. I felt like there were baseball bats crushing my hands or crushing my skull. And I would look to my hands completely shocked that they were whole. I thought I would look and see these shattered mess of hands. Like, that's how insane the pain was, and that's how much it played on my psyche. So my body shut down. This got worse and worse. And as my body was shutting down, my psychic abilities amplified. They became so intense. I was having so much interaction with spirit world and the space all around us and between us that it actually made my illness feel worse because it brought on a lot of fear. I would spontaneously leave my body and astral travel to other realms. I didn't know that's what was happening. I think I just lumped everything into holy shit. And I was pretty scared. I felt very vulnerable. I felt alone, and I really questioned my mental health. So things were occurring that like, for example, I would see wolves or beings or different crazy beings such as aliens or elementals, and I was witnessing them in such a full frontal way, and I felt like I had no control. I was completely vulnerable. They were crawling in my bed at night. I was relentlessly harassed 24 hours a day on top of this extremely painful, debilitating illness. And it wasn't a conversation I could have with people. It was too crazy. Like, I had seen, I don't know, Long Island Medium, and she's talking to ghosts, and I'm seeing way beyond that. And it was horrifying. And a lot of my personal boundaries were interfered with during this point as well. A lot of the beings I was seeing all around me, because I was so ill, because I was in such an emotionally deprived state, these low vibrational beings or experimental beings were really having a field day with me. So one of the things that I started connecting with guides through different resources, and I started shape-shifting into different animals, or wolf guides would come through, dragon guides would come through, these angels would come through. There was these beings standing around my bed, all in cloaks, standing there waiting for me to acknowledge them. And then I started seeing their faces, and these were star beings and angels and intergalactic beings. And I started getting teachings of using sound to heal. So I have to remember at this point I was probably considered like crippled at this time. I couldn't walk to the washroom or anything. I wasn't eating. I was so ill. Everything was very high pain. So I started working with frequencies. And once I started working with frequencies and sound, what I did is I just typed in sound for pain healing or something like that in YouTube. And that was where my journey began. And I started listening with my headphones, laying in my bed. I wasn't able to move much, so I was in these long periods of hypersensitivity without mobility. So it was very stressful, and my brain, so much was activated in this time. And I started listening to the frequencies, and these frequencies, the longer I would listen to them, would start turning into light. And I could start following the waves of these frequencies in my body and start seeing shape, lack of shape, light, lack of light, other beings. I could see my organs, my spine, my nervous system. I could start making out all the faces of everything around me. And it was frequency and some other things, but this story is leading to a conversation about frequency, hertz, and clarity and our purpose of being here. So I have a lot of story in that time interwoven with how my teachings came about, the people I met, my time alone, a lot of time alone. It was an isolating time in my life. And I did have one mentor, a woman named Teresa Palomar, who really, really devoted her time to me, and a few friends in the community that taught me the true definition of compassion, community, and selflessness. And I'm really grateful for them. And my children, they kept me going. So I'm seeing these frequencies, and this is when I start seeing sacred geometry. This is when I start seeing light codes, but there was no information at this time. This was kind of wacky, even on a psychic perspective. So I started using sound and frequencies and relating to it, like as though my body was a pendulum. So each part of my body could relate to different vibrational levels. You know, like my feet could connect more with the mineral kingdom. I mean, it's pretty clear, I think, you know, once I start naming them off. My knees would connect with the elemental kingdom. My hips would connect with the earth and the Gaia-ness, that womb area, and so on and so on. And it would get even more intricate with that. So I started using these sounds and these frequencies, and I went to town, like just typing in things that I was channeling to do and what my guides were saying. They were using technology to teach me, which was really actually interesting. And I would tap into all these different realms that I was connecting with, all these different beings from these different realms. I was able to start getting more specific, more of a crystalline view. So I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about astral travel. I learned a lot about other species, light language, sacred geometry, the laws of the universe, time being all linear and collapsing as one. Have a deep connection with this, and I really owe a lot of that to sound. Now we're going to get to the point of why I wanted to share that story with you about my journey. What I'm about to share actually scared me quite a bit. So I just want to forewarn anybody, star beings and star nations, this probably isn't for everybody. I think that if you're a leader in healing yourself and a leader in trying to create change, then most definitely it is for you. But just definitely use your discretion of who you'll share this with. I'm doing this live on my format, but my following's pretty small, so I think that those who are meant to see it are going to see it. But I just want to warn everybody that this scared me very badly, so it may scare you as well. So this was 3 years ago, and between 3 and 4. And I was in a meditative state using sound, and I was also in the bath, 2 things that really catapult me into my shamanic visions and quests. And I started seeing all around me, the space disappeared. My bathtub disappeared. Now, I often see things, but I still have a pretty good grasp on the space around me. That wasn't happening in this moment. It was intense. All around me was, I, yeah, I'm good, thanks. No, I'm good. Ticks don't like me. Okay, thank you. People in the neighborhood. So all around me, I'm back to the story. So I'm in the bath, I'm listening to the frequencies, I'm doing the things that I need to do. Yeah, thanks, Megan, right? And yeah, ticks don't like me. They're not interested in my frequency. It's all good. So the whole space started disappearing. The sky was blacked out. It was all like ash, and all this, yeah, it was like very sooty, very ashy. There was no light, there was no sun, there was no vegetation. There might have been buildings, but they were crumbled. And I could see people in like really dirty states. They were in almost like pods, and the pods were a part of the ground and the earth and the rumble and the garbage. Like all our debris was just rotting all around us. There was these other beings. I feel like one just came forward. Obviously, I'm talking about this. This is a truth on the parallel multiverses. So one is, somebody just tried to call me. Please don't do it again. Okay. Basically what was happening was it was humans in a timeline in the future. But what future, who knows, because all time is now and it's infinite, right? Everything's happened. And we were completely conquered by these alien beings, okay? But we were conquered, it was weird, there was like emotionless, it was just basic science to them. And what they were doing was similar to the movie The Matrix, other than it wasn't as organized. It just looked dirty. Like we didn't look respected. We were just like, we had all these tubes and things coming out of us, and we were basically being farmed for energy. So what they expressed was the things that our bodies were made of and our capabilities of channeling all the way above and all the way below, because we do have that capability. It's why we're here on Earth. It's the middle of everything. So you have particular abilities if you're here at this time and you're in the middle. That means you can do above and below. We're here because we can handle binaries. So this is unique to a human's biological composition. Yes, we're made of the same things as the stars, and that's a component of it, you know? Like we're like a really incredible hybrid or AI. So this is known. It's also why we're so interesting to other beings in the universes, and it's also why we get so much support, because benevolent beings like, you know, the Galactic Federation of Light, or the Pleiadians, or the Alpha Centaurians, or the Blue Avians, who else? The Arcturians, the Sirians. Like they are all these really wonderful species who really see our potential and what we can do, and are here to support us, as well as some of them are probably in human bodies walking among us, right? They're here to help on multiple levels. So this is all known. So this is what I'm seeing. This is our world in the future, and we are completely defeated. We're defeated by smog, industrialism. We're defeated by this narcissistic greed for more plastic clothing. We're more concerned about our clothing and looking good than we are about Mother Nature and the earth that we stand on. I mean, collectively, I think that if you're listening to this right now, you're probably on the higher scale of loving the earth. But that's just an example of where we are as a collective and why Star Nations are here. So this was 3 days that I couldn't shake this. I kept seeing and feeling humans completely being depleted, imprisoned. Our minds knew we were imprisoned. This is a multiple level of prison. And one of the things that I started channeling as this process, as I started calming down and I was being guided by guides as well as my higher aspects. So my knowing of my experiences again in the multiverse. And I started channeling that this is our 6th time awake on this timeline to prevent this catastrophe. The relevancy is so valuable that if that were to stay the truth, it takes humans something like 200 billion years to get back on track and start revolutionizing themselves again and evolving again. And here's the really interesting part. It's not just this universe, it's all of them. It's all of the planets. It's all of the parallel realities. It's all of the species. It's benevolent species. Like gods and archangels have their stories too. Everything is forgiven. All of this is involved in Earth coming to a space of neutrality again. This is the farthest we've actually come. So after the Mandela effect was really kicking into full gear, I recognized that it kind of waves in and out, but there was this division time. All the talk was of some who are going to make it, some who are not going to make it. It was actually a scary time for light workers who were aware of this. And the truth was, in the end, we all made it. And I know that I had a big piece of that, but I know that I'm not a singularity. We are all here on a grid. We all have our purpose. We are all here because we have the abilities to prevent this from happening. So one of the things that I've learned from this experience as well is how they do it. So how they do it is through interfering with the vibrational frequency in the airwaves. Most definitely 5G is a concerning topic that I think is aligned with this, which has encouraged me to come forward. Ooh. Oh, this beautiful bird fluttered by. So one of the ways that they do all of this is they interfere with the hertz and the frequency. We've all heard of music going from it is originally supposed to be aligned with 432 hertz, which is the frequency of the earth. But that was switched to 432 hertz, and this was all about brainwave mind control. This is kind of like the beginning of it. Really heavy words, I'm sorry about that. So these subtle things, the science behind it is we are all connected with the solfeggio frequencies, okay? So what's happening is they are the frequencies of the space all around us. When I was talking about how my body's a pendulum and I can feel from my feet at different kind of levels of hertz and frequencies, this is what they're all kind of blanketed on or umbrellaed under, and there's like variations all in between. So we have so this is all around us. So there's all the planets that we are connected to, and the vibrations below and above are what create these. The way they spin, right? Their spin and their consciousness and their velocity creates sound, creates vibration, creates frequency, creates shape. And that's what creates the solfeggio frequencies. That's what creates hertz. That's what creates vibration, right? Is this motion, this combination. And with this knowledge that our bodies are impacted by our environment, because this is where all of these frequencies are resting, we're impacted by our own frequencies. Like our chakra system is a frequency that we work with that is impacted by this. We also have our waves, our brain waves, our connection and our cranial rhythm waves that are like the delta, the alpha, the beta, the gamma waves. So these are all different ways that our bodies are already working with frequency. And the objective of energy work really, at the end of the day, is to remove blockages that take you out of that homeostasis with these particular numbers that the frequencies are, right? So like the crown chakra is well, I did some research of some people's opinions, and I got 936 hertz, and I also got 670 hertz. So I believe the evolution of our species is actually more in the 1100s to 1200s if you are really working with ascending to the fifth dimension. That's my opinion when I connect with the frequencies and what I feel. It's just a resonance. It's just intuitive. I don't have concrete data to back that up, but I do think intuition is the evolution of our species, and trusting that. So how they interfere with us and how they bring us to this place of being farmed for our energy is using these frequencies. So by just shifting 1 or 2 hertz up, or 1 or 2 hertz down, and then combining those, there's like a 600 level, which is the dodecahedron. That's the space between us. The 639 frequency is the dodecahedron. It's the space between us. It's our relationship frequency. And it's when you are in harmony with that, you're in harmony with the relationship surrounding you, whether that's people or plant or self, like reflection of self. So you shift that to 635 hertz, and it's all scrambling you, and then you throw in 963 hertz is the crown chakra. You switch that to 970 hertz, throw it in with that mixed up 600 hertz, you've got a really messed up being. And what's happening is that you're at war with yourself. And it's one of the ways that they've controlled us in a manner of, like, when we're on our cell phones, these are sending out frequencies and binaural beats. They're sending out the waves. They're interfering with that geometry. So they're taking all of our natural frequencies off. They're taking our relationship with the solfeggio frequencies around us away. And this is how it's done. And now we've reached a point where there's this conversation on the table about 5G, and there's like fake articles, there's real articles, but at the end of the day, it's still concerning. It's interfering. There's so many doctors and scientists saying this is so dangerous. Like, what are you doing? I believe this was the moment I saw in my visions. So, of interfering with the frequencies and our waves to take us off homeostasis, so that we essentially turn on yourselves and no longer participate, no longer be a part of the great circle, just be in your line. And a lot of inner self-blame, which I think all of us star beings are afraid of mental illness, and we start self-blaming. There's like that idea, like, am I depressed? I can't let people know. I don't want to be judged for having these gifts and also having these extreme emotions. I think it's not really, we're dreaming in a society that's safe to experience those things without being labeled, but it's not the present. We're just aware of that in the present now. So that's what that dreaming in is. We're weaving our future. It's why we're here. So now that we know, I've shared this vision and this really, really ugly truth about part of our all timeline history and story. I recognize how they do this, and that's through using the hertz and the frequencies and the vibrational resonance around us to alter our inner chemistry and our outer chemistry. So what I was shown is actually super cool. So here is a remedy, right? Everything has a solution. You cannot be possibly shown things this dark without a solution. I don't think that's possible. Everything to me has a solution, and I will always work to find that. So the solution is 521 hertz. This is really cool. So the 521 hertz is what? It's an 8. It's infinite healing. It's infinite kind of working with dark matter, switching it to light matter. It's what it does, and I don't entirely know, but what it does is it actually brings all of your inner frequencies to neutrality. So like, say your heart, you're hurting from something in your life, and your rear heart and your front heart are hurting, and then the frequency of the heart is getting interfered with. You're definitely going to be stuck with that, and you're going to self-blame. That's one of the ways the space around you is interfering with your alignment. So by using the hertz of 521 hertz and listening to them with headphones, saying 521 hertz, I also have some geometries that help with that. This neutralizes all of it. There's other things you can do, like you can actually put that into crystals. Organite is really amazing for this. I also work with a really good friend of mine, an Ojibwe elder. He is a shaman, and he is also an engineer. And we are in the process of communicating about his most recent channel, which is to create a device that you leave in the home, and it will help to neutralize any interfering waves that may or may not be happening. Right? It's a controversial subject. So this works. It is so effective. I'm going to be putting up a video on my YouTube page with these hertz, with these frequencies, and with instructions on how to sit with them and work with them and neutralize yourself. Heal yourself first. As many people as you can share with is wonderful, but as a mother, the greatest advice I've ever been given, and I've heard over and over, is you need to put your gas mask on first and then help others. So this is your gas mask. And what else did I have to say? Just reading my notes, pardon me. Okay, so I have one more story before I end this chat today, and it's all related to everything I just shared. I'm gonna shift a bit. So about perhaps a month ago, does copper mesh help neutralize that type of interference? Copper is an amplifier. So I think that if you use copper just answering a question here, when you use copper, you're going to amplify everything that you do. So I think adding copper to your modalities. So we're fellow artists here. So I will actually put copper pieces on the backs of my paintings. I will do it back on the back of my art to amplify its vibration into this field and space. And it also helps to, when you're bringing light codes into a solid now through art or through crystal or jewelry making, when you put that with copper, it expands the field that it can work with. It helps to bring it to an earth frequency. Okay. Okay, so I was going for a walk, and I went for the walk because I was a grouch, complete and utter grouch. You're welcome. My mind was racing. It was all in the back of my head, that kind of like that PTSD, like animal mind that we have. And it was stuff I'd already dealt with, and I was like, what the heck? So I was getting upset with myself as well. So I'm having simultaneous emotions and interactions with myself and the space around me, and I was like so grumpy that I'm like, I gotta get out for a walk. My mom's like, you need the forest. I'm like, I need the forest. So I get to the forest, and I don't know, honestly, 2 minutes or less, I was fine. Completely fine. I was now neutralizing, allowing the earth and the water to take that static energy from me and support me in that. I started listening to the birds and seeing the leaves wave in the trees and all these beautiful, peaceful things. And nature's so amazing because they're not off from their original instructions, like at all. There's just so much peace to them. Oh, same to you, honey. Same to you. I'm grateful that you're listening, and that I took the courage to share these things today. Okay, so these negative thoughts were completely gone, and then I'm making solutions. My body is problem solving. I'm making solutions. I'm not stuck. I'm in a circle movement. I'm in a figure 8 movement. Cause and effect, moving forward, light and dark. Let's break it up, move forward. And then ancestors started coming all around me, as they always do when I come to the forest, and they start singing songs. They start coming into my body. So one of my experiences that I have is they start coming to my body, and I can feel them singing through me. And There's a lot of ancestor medicine and ancestors around here. Sometimes I'm surrounded by up to like 200, and they started communicating with several men and some women, chiefs, medicine people, the ones who are, their lives were focused and their souls were focused on creating big change and big harmony, you know. And the wood spirit came in, and she was fluttering through me, and I could hear this beautiful high-pitched song. And I could hear all the birds singing, and I could see that the birds were spaced out in a particular way. It's these beautiful golden finches that have moved in here. And they were responding to each other, and they were tracing and creating sacred geometry between all of themselves. I think at this stage, we've all kind of read articles about how the birds follow the ley lines. Like, we know all of this. So they truly are experiencing with all these things. And they were creating this sacred geometry, and I could see them. I could see the rings of existence spiraling at like the key point of the center. So I went and stood there, and I bowed my head, because when you show the top of your head, animals tend to be less afraid and give you a little bit more trust and won't just flutter off, especially if you see them consistently. And so I stood there, and I was right in this center point with all these rings, like around a tree, all around me. And they were clearing me and washing me away of this just kind of garbage feeling that was like maneuvering around my body and bring me to a place that I thought like I wasn't happy with myself. You know, I've been doing a lot of work on my journey. I've really deeply followed shamanism. I've really deeply followed the galactic information. I've really deeply followed my guides. I'm devoted. And so I was pretty upset with myself, and they washed that away and washed it away. And I started hearing them talk that they're doing this to help us. They started talking to me about the waves and the frequency is like coming out of the poles and everything, and all the damage it was doing. And they are here. So I've channeled before, and I've heard other channelers say this as well, that the archangels and some of the like Pleiadians or greater benevolent star beings are coming in through the birds and creating these grids to heal us. So the communication, I definitely think, was that type of omnipresent voice, expressing that they're doing this to help to clean us and purify us and protect us from all these waves. Where they're standing is just underneath the waves, you know, especially out in the open. I think in homes is different. And they express it's one of the reasons it's so sad that our green space is dwindling, because there's only so much they can do for us. And this goes into like loving the mother, loving Gaia, you know, like caring more for her than quick fashion, and which is, I think, the big pollution problem of now, and like single-use plastics, like just ridiculous stuff, and not honoring her, like depleting land with manufactured seeds, depleting land with chemical sprays, and claiming it not useful. And so the next thing you know, there's buildings and sites going up. We need the earth, we need the forest back, we need the moss, we need the trees. All of these aspects of Mother Earth are doing everything they can to help us selflessly, completely selflessly. So I was just blown away that I was that impacted by the frequencies that were off all around us, that to the point where I felt like I couldn't deal with my own mental health that day. And yeah, exactly. So I think this is a precursor to 5G. Somebody's saying soon 5G. And yes, I'm trying not to give it too much power by calling it out that much, but that's what this is about. And so I've continued to walk, and I'm feeling great. And then my mind is wonderful. Then my brain went black, this black cloud over my brain. And again, the negative thoughts started pummeling me. This time I was a witness to it. It wasn't like I wasn't in control. And I was like, what the heck just happened? Like, I can't believe I was like channeling with benevolent beings, talking with the forest, talking with ancestors, creating solutions on point, knowing my worth, feeling my presence with the earth, to this complete black feeling again. And I looked and I was in between two giant hydro poles. And I'm like, there we go. And I could see the waves and the frequency of these giant poles. It was like zzz, whereas our waves are more like they're sexier, you know, like these waves were just like they were just so like Beavis and Butthead. They were awful. They had no connection with creation, you know. They had no connection with all the things to be present in life. It was just a complete opposite. So I'm moving along and I recognize this and I start talking to the trees some more, and I can see how much work they're doing. Like the rings are vibrating out vroom, vroom, in the ground. I know there's been articles floating around about this whole system of communication underneath the ground and the trees. They're doing so much for the earth and so much for us selflessly. But that's how serious they believe this is. Like, all around us is creationism standing up for us. If I ever had like $1 billion, I would buy all the forest, all the green space, all the rainforest, and declare everything untouchable. I would buy back all the depleted farm soil, and I work with a medicine woman named Linda Rose who knows how to bring life back to soil. I met a Bushman mystic in Panama. He's from South Africa, and he can grow anything in South Africa. He can turn any soil any dirt into the richest soil. This is possible. All of our lakes can be cleaned with grasses and mosses. Like, we have to work with what is here for us. Like, and that to me is how you navigate being a star being on Earth. Okay. So I just wanted to share everything because I felt it was valuable, and I know that we rise as a collective. I know that we overcome this as a collective. The more you trust yourself, the more you're aligned with yourself, the more you empty yourself of your ancestral DNA script. That was a purpose. That purpose is to define your medicine, is to reach for your cosmic self, and your why of being here is because you can overcome that purpose. And I know we've got this, because so many catastrophes were meant to happen and they haven't. And I think it's because the collective mind of the 144,000 or the 144 or the plant kingdoms, the collective comprehension that love wins and love is more powerful, and we have the right to care and share that love and share that healing, the more we can really move mountains. I feel that, as I said in the beginning, this is our 6th time on the wake on this timeline to complete this mission, and you need to be you. I'm gonna cry. You need to be you. You're here for a reason. I need you.